Today on the 1012, we are back after a 3-week hiatus with Brett Gibbons of the Lines to do our Big 12 Dream Roadshow. We each have picked 13 weeks worth of games that we would love to go and see if we had the ability to do so. So buckle up, check it out, and let us know your thoughts. You can always email us at 1012podcast@gmail.com or hit us up on social, 1012 Network on Twitter, 1012pod on Instagram.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the 1012, the podcast that covers all 16 teams in the Big 12 Conference. Still not used to that. We are, of course, the flagship show of the 1012 Network. Find every show on the network at 1012network.com. And, of course, we are partners with Sports Social, Europe's biggest sports podcast network. I'm your host, Phillip Slavin. Thank you for joining us back after a few weeks off. We had our rankings week. I needed a little bit of time to prepare myself for things. But we are back behind the mic, 2 episodes a week, every week, through the college football season moving forward. It seemed like a good idea to get things going again by having a little bit of fun. I wanted to have some fun. And we like to do this, and we're not the only ones. I think Athlon is actually the one, the guys who do the Athlon podcast, who started the Dream Road Trip, and they do it nationally. And, of course, we are a Big 12 podcast, so we are going to just focus on Big 12 games. I like doing this. It's fun. If I had all the free time and money in the world, I would actually do these kinds of things because I can only imagine it would be a ton of fun. And so to do this with me today, I brought someone on who not only enjoys talking about college football venues, but has seen and been to physically an absolute ton of them. So very excited for the first time here on the 1012 podcast. Brett Gibbons of the Lines. Brett, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Phillip, thanks for having me. Really excited to be on here. Like you said, we're talking a little bit of college football travel, which is my absolute passion. So really excited. Season is getting big in the window and ready to roll.
All right, Brett, I got to ask, how many FBS college football venues have you actually been to?
108. I've been inside most of them, at least at the front gate of 108 of them. I've been to 45 for games. That is growing this year. But it's a never ending chase, I suppose, because we're adding, of course, a couple of FBS teams, one this year and then 2 more next year. And who knows where we go from there with the alignment of college football. But yeah, 108 is my current count, 45 for games.
Okay. Of the new Big 12, the 16 team Big 12, how many have you been to? How many for games?
Well, it was all of them until they folded in UCF. Now I have been to 15 of the 16 in terms of games. Oh boy. Let's see. I still have yet to get out west for many of those except Arizona State. So TCU, Baylor. I could sit here and go through all that, but that's bad podcasting. Let's say several. I don't have the count in front of me. I should have had that ready.
All right. So UCF is on the list, the bounce house. You got to go for a game, I think. So you get the full bounce house experience of when that thing is rocking. And if I may make a suggestion, pick a space game. That is their
space game.
Space game is their, that is the game. They are undefeated in space game. It's when they pull out the space uniforms. It is that is the game. Fans are that's the game. That's the wildest, craziest, most fans. That's the game. And if UCF fans, if you have a different opinion on that, this is the one I would think of. Hit us up, let us know. But if I'm wrong, you can let Brett know if I am right on this one on Twitter at Road2CFB, ROADTOCFB, UCF fans. But I think that's wrong. If that's the call is a space game. This year's space game is Arizona. Arizona fans are not scared. Y'all are about to learn space game, and it's going to be an interesting one this season. That might be on your list of games if you were going to go every single week. So the rules for this, we're going to break this down. We're going to pick at least one game for every single week of the season. You can pick 2 in a weekend, but you have to be able to realistically drive from game A to game B. It gets a little bit hard later in the season just because we don't know what kickoff times are as of yet. You have to see every Big 12 team once, and you can only go to a venue 2 times at most. So you can't go to the same stadium 3 times. So those were the rules that we both had to work with here. I have my list of games for all 14 weeks. You have your list of games for all 14 weeks. Before we dive in, and we're going to talk about a few things along the way, like anchor games I immediately put down as like, I must do this one. What was your kind of philosophy when filling out your list of games this season?
Yeah, well, I wanted to make all 16 stadiums. I did make it work. Unfortunately, I had to sacrifice like the Holy War. I had that down. That was something I really, really wanted to go to. Unfortunately, had to scratch it. We'll get into why. But I did want to make it to all 16. Was able to do that. You might be doing some trucking here, but it is realistic. And so my strategy, of course, was doing. I started actually with the doable weeknight games, the double headers, I suppose, 2 in a single week. I did that a couple of times just to get those in, and then I kind of went from east to west for the most part, some doubling back, and I tried to regions at a time, and successfully, that's how I was able to get all 16 down.
Man, you took it upon yourself to take the challenge and make it more difficult by visiting all 16 stadiums. That is very impressive. I cannot wait. All right, so let's just dive in because we've got 14 weeks of college football to talk about. We've got a ton of games to get to. Let's start with week 1. Brett, as the guest, I'm going to let you go first. What's your plan here?
Okay, didn't go games over venues, so just to start with the one that's the furthest geographically most difficult to get to, UCF. Thursday night, they're playing New Hampshire. Again, like I said, I'm sorry, UCF fans. I know this isn't the space game like you threw out there. I'm sure it's not, rivalry game, in-state rivalry or anything like that. But to be honest here, it's the most geographically isolated. So I wanted to start in Orlando and work my way west from there. So that's the first game. I have 2 this week, but that's my first one on Thursday.
Okay. I only have 1 game for this one. And this was one of my anchor games. I have 4 anchor games. 4 games I went, I have to be here, and here. I wanted to make a midweek game work, but I of the ones I wanted to realistically see, Colorado, North Dakota State, and TCU Stanford, I could not make the travel work because I was not going to miss West Virginia versus Penn State in Morgantown, which is potentially the best and biggest non-conference game for the Big 12 this season because of not just the fact that is a rivalry game. I know Penn State's won most of the matchups. If West Virginia is actually able to pull this off in week 1, it completely changes the narrative for West Virginia this season. I think it changes the narrative for the Big 12 this season because expectations for Penn State are very, very high. If somehow West Virginia pulls off this win, and Neil Brown has not been great in week 1 big matchups. They've struggled in this. If they were to pull this off, I think it completely changes everything for the Big 12 and the West Virginia expectations. It's going to be a rivalry game. West Virginia has played in close games in week 1, even when they've lost them. This one was going to. I had to the point that I really wanted 2 games this week, and I thought about I could go to a game with an FCS opponent just to make it, but I was like, I'm just going to go here because the other ones I considered I couldn't make work. From a travel standpoint, no matter how hard I tried, I'm like, I could just not sleep for 2 days to watch this. No, that doesn't seem safe or realistic. So that is my pick for week 1.
Well, Phillip, I might be bending the rules then. We may have different ideas of what is and is not doable, but I will be seeing you at Penn State at West Virginia because that is my pick on Saturday. Like you said, anchor game here, a lot of bad blood. Last year, if you remember, Penn State had the fake kneel down toward the end of the game, threw the ball to cover the spread because James Franklin is one of those college coaches that is acutely aware of how much his team is or is not favored by and does everything in his power to make sure that they're covering that. It's a 14.5-hour drive, 908 miles. That's trucking it. You do have all day Friday to get that done, though. So if we're thinking maybe 2-3 hours after UCF, maybe get to a little bit in Georgia. It's 9 hours the next day, which sucks. That's a full work day. But if you get out, stretch your legs a little bit, good Lord, avoid Atlanta near rush hour. I think you can do it. I think you can get to within an hour or 2 outside of, West Virginia. You're probably staying in a motel somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. But I do think that it is realistic to get there, albeit tough. This is one of my tougher swings. I have a lot more realistic drives after this as we have full weeks to get places. But yeah, New Hampshire, UCF, Penn State, West Virginia, tough travel, but I think overall a good weekend.
A 9-hour drive in a day, that's doable. That's realistic. You're going to get some sleep. I was trying to figure out, how do I do Boulder, Colorado to Morgantown? And it's a 21.5-hour drive. And I was like, okay, that's not that's not realistic. Like I can't pull that one off. There's no train to get me from A to B. So yours is real. Like 9-hour driving a day, that's fine. That's every family road trip is like 9+ hours. So and as a person who doesn't have to stop 20 times because of a wife or kids to go potty in the car, like you're good. You just straight shot it and hold it in, Gatorade bottle on the side of the road, whatever you got to do, but you'll be good to go. Okay. I like this. I like week 1. All right. So week 2, which is arguably the best weekend of non-conference in the Big 12, with some of the matchups that we had to choose from. I'm really curious here what you decided to go with.
Yeah, I went Pitt at Cincinnati at Nippert Stadium. I have been to Nippert. I've been to West Virginia as well for games. Nippert is incredible, especially when you bring in a bigger former conference rival, I should say, in Pitt. It's about 4.5 hours from West Virginia to the Queen City, Cincinnati, my home state here. Beautiful city. This was an anchor game for me as well, just because I might romanticize a little bit, but I love the old defunct conference rivalries, which this of course is. Both teams left the Big East in 2013. Pitt went to the ACC. Cincinnati went to the American, split their ways there. And honestly, because we're still early enough in the season, you can go catch a Cincinnati Reds game. You might be able to see some Bengals preseason or practice or something like that. There's a lot to do in this area, and you have all week to just make it 4.5 hours.
I like that. That's good. Because again, you wanted to see or hit every stadium. And so that is entirely respectable. And this, again, it's a ton of great options. I think OSU Arkansas is a sneaky good option. Obviously, you have Kansas State at Tulane, which I would have liked more had Willie Fritz stayed there. Everyone's going to pick like all the different ones, like, well, Colorado at Nebraska. And I'm like, I get it. I'm not sure how good of a game that's actually going to be. That's fine. I thought long and hard about El Assico, Iowa State, Iowa. Maybe this will be a year that Iowa State pulls it off because Iowa's still going to be trying to figure out their new, I'm using air quotes in a visual, auditory medium, offense. If Iowa has, we'll see what that looks like. But I like when it comes to non-con and we do this, I really like taking Big 12 road games. I really like to have opportunities to go outside of the Big 12 and see some cool venues. And so the West Virginia Penn State's my only non-con like Big 12 home game because it was such an anchor game. So what I ended up going with was what I'm officially deeming the Mike Leach Bowl between Texas Tech and Washington State. I don't know what to expect from Wazoo this season. Texas Tech is like, they could be in Arlington. They could be 7-5 again because we just don't know with Baron Morton. But this is this is an important game for Texas Tech because the schedule sets up outside of this one. Like they could start 5-0 if they get past this game based off the way the schedule sets up. It's a trip up to Pullman. I've never been there. I feel like it would be a fun venue to go check out. You could tell me your thoughts on it. I haven't been there. Texas Tech going all the way up there is crazy. I don't know why Texas Tech schedules these games. Like going to Wyoming. Let's go to Pullman. Let's go to... but it seems like a ton of fun. It seems like it could be a really interesting and fun game. And it's a good opportunity to see Texas Tech in a what should be an important game early in the season.
Well, and what's really interesting about that matchup on the field outside of environment and sitting, all that stuff, is you're getting Zach Kitley and Ben Arbuckle that both come from the same tree. Ironically, both the Mike Leach inspired tree. So you're going to be getting a really nice air raid matchup. I don't think Washington State's going to have a quarterback as prolific as Cam Ward unless somebody steps up and surprises, but just to see the same styles and almost see that chess match going back and forth. Ben Arbuckle is one of my favorite coordinators in the entire country previously at Western Kentucky when Zach Kitley was. He actually succeeded Zach Kitley in Bowling Green there, Western Kentucky, and then moved on to Washington State. But yeah, that'd just be fantastic to watch down the field live.
Oh yeah, that's just Mike Leach Bowl. Absolutely. And I don't have a trophy designed for this one, but y'all figure something out. Okay, let's move on to week 3. An interesting week. We get the first Big 12 conference games of the season this week because of the way schedules work out. You've got some interesting road games. I've got 2 games this week, but I'm going to let you start off. Where are you going?
Okay, I've only got one. I'm not quite going into Big 12 conference play yet. And this is where there's a little bit of an asterisk on these 16 home stadiums because Kansas is not playing at home this year. So I'm making the drive from Cincinnati to Kansas City, going through St. Louis, going to compare St. Louis barbecue to Kansas City barbecue and seeing a rematch of the Guaranteed Rate Bowl that combined for like 85 points. I think it came out to be 49-36. UNLV at Kansas. I know UNLV doesn't quite have Jane Mayava. They don't have that quarterback that they had last year. And I have a question for you. Money's no object here, right? Like we're doing this on unlimited budget.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm seeing Bengals at Chiefs the next day. I know we're not an NFL podcast, but if I'm in KC, why not grab a hotel overnight for a setting out? A little doubleheader there. But UNLV Kansas should be a really fun game. Of course, we're seeing it at Children's Mercy Park, which is I think Sporting KC. I don't know if the NWSL plays there as well. But yeah, we'll see Kansas in a quote unquote home contest.
That's fun. I like that one. I considered that one just because it's an interesting matchup. But this was my 1 week where I got to fit 2 games in and could realistically make the travel work. So I'm starting Thursday night with Arizona State at Texas State. Look, I don't know what to expect from Arizona State. I know, I think Texas State will probably be the favorite in this game in San Marcos. But look, it should be a fun game for the Sun Devils, an interesting test for them. I think Texas State is going to be fun. The coach's name, who completely just escaped my brain, who
G.J. Kinney.
Thank you. Who coached at Incarnate Word and played for Tulsa and is going to, he may be out of San Marcos after this season with a much better, group of 5 job. I'm excited about this one, and it gave me an opportunity to start off in a game that made sense, and then I could then travel to a rivalry game. A rivalry that could be ending soon based off certain games getting canceled in the future. And I hate seeing rivalry stuff. And I know that both sides are like, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. But I'm heading all the way to Oxford, Ohio to watch Cincinnati at Miami of Ohio on Saturday morning. This drive works. I checked the time. I'm just going to be on the road all day Friday. That's okay. I love an opportunity to see some non-con rivalries. I love non-con rivalries. I don't understand the point of not playing these things. Whatever, egos aside, I want to go see this game. Plus, Miami of Ohio upsetting Cincinnati last year. Cincinnati looking for some revenge. Year 2 for Satterfield. You really don't want to start 0-2 against Miami of Ohio when not everyone loves you as a head coach. So rivalry aspect, could get to a second game, go see the Bearcats in a game that wasn't going to be around for much longer potentially. Had to do it this week.
Yeah, and that is a doable drive. I've made it. I lived in Texas. I worked at Texas State for a little while. By the way, get to San Marcos early. Spend your time in San Marcos. Awesome college town. But yeah, you can make that drive. I've done it in a quote unquote day and a half. Of course, again, you're really trucking it, but it's a doable thing.
I'm by myself. I'm just gonna go. Just gonna hop in the car, put on a bunch of podcasts and a book on tape, right? And I'll just rock it. It'll be great. Plus, fun P4 at fun G5. I love these kinds of things. I absolutely love these kinds of trips. If I wanted to make it easier, I'd go to OSU at Tulsa, but I've got other opportunities to see Oklahoma State later on in the season. Okay, that is my doubleheader for week 3. For week 4, now we're in conference play now. I think there's only 2 non-cons left after week 3. So week 4, first full week of real conference play in the Big 12, this new 16-team Big 12. There's a lot of exciting games on the schedule. Which direction are you going?
I managed to find one of the 2 non-league games. I know. But again, I had to make all 16 work. I had to make some sacrifice here. But I still think this could be a fun adjacent game. I'm not going to say it's going to be an amazing close game. It could be. I don't know. Arkansas State at Iowa State. I know Jack Trice is probably better off with Iowa in town. Unfortunately, not visiting this year, or one of those things at Iowa State. I get it. This is the first ever matchup between these 2 teams, which is also just kind of adds a little bit of fun to it. It's only about 3.5 hours from our last stop to this stop. Jalen Rayner at Arkansas State is a lot of fun. They score a lot. Butch Jones, SEC, very veteran, seasoned coach here coming into Ames. I think this could be a fun game, still a fun environment, even if it's not a top tier Big 12 team.
I like that. That's fun. And I was doing some looking yesterday through things. This new 16-team Big 12, there are actually 12 never played before matchups in the history of college football within the Big 12. 8 of those will come this season. The other 4 are next year. So there's going to be a lot of these teams have never met on the football field. These teams have never foot on the football field. I'll tell you, Arizona has never played Cincinnati, West Virginia, or UCF. Arizona State's never played Kansas or Iowa State. Colorado's never played UCF. A lot of UCF in this. Iowa State's never played UCF or Houston, which was a surprising one to me. Utah's never played Cincinnati, Kansas State, or UCF, and UCF and TCU have never played. So a lot of UCF in this, obviously. We get 8 of first-timers this year, 4 next year, so I just a note for everyone. It's a really fun thing to be like, never played before. UCF's playing a lot of teams for the very first time. I have one of those on my list, don't worry. For me, this is my second anchor game of the schedule, and it is Oklahoma State playing host to Utah. It is our one of 2 games where Oklahoma State is hosting the season that I'm gonna head to Stillwater for, because I mean this is a big one. This is 2 of the winningest, longest current tenured head coaches in college football who have never met on the gridiron. I don't know how, but they never have. Mike Gundy, Kyle Whittingham have not met each other before in football. It is 2 of the biggest blue blood top 25 for the last decade plus programs. It's going to be in Stillwater. I know this game is already sold out. Fans are excited about this one. Utah players, they were talking to Utah players who were like, we've got Oklahoma State and Stillwater circled. Even that, Utah's like, we know about this game. It's a first Big 12 game. Yes, these 2 teams it's not a first-time matchup. I think they played once in the 30s, so it's technically not a first-time matchup, but it's not like anyone alive remembers that game. So, this is a huge game. And it's early in the season, and by the time we get to week 14, maybe this doesn't have the impact on the Big 12 race that we thought it might. But as of today, this is a huge one right out of the gate of Big 12 play, of a matchup between 2 teams that are considered contenders. This game could decide a lot of things for Arlington come December. It was on my anchor list. I had to make this game. I'm headed to Stillwater.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. Utah fans boast Rice Eccles as one of the most difficult places to play, particularly at night. They're right. They're going to find out about another place that is extremely difficult to play, especially at night, assuming this game does kick off at night. Stillwater is an amazing town, amazing game atmosphere, very, very daunting.
Yeah, get ready to learn paddles. You're going to be hearing those in your sleep. It's going to drive them crazy. Okay, loving this. All right, so let's move on to week 5 of the schedule. What you got?
Yeah, I will be seeing Oklahoma State in the aftermath of that home game against Utah when they visit Kansas State. Oklahoma State did not do themselves any favors with this early 6-week stretch of a schedule in the season. But I'll tell you what, we'll know a lot about the Pokes come October. And of course, this is one of those games, Oklahoma State at Kansas State at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Again, I really desperately wanted to get Farmageddon here so badly, but couldn't make it work to make all 16 happen here. So I think this might be the next best game on the schedule in Manhattan. It's about a 5-hour drive. Manhattan, by the way, beautiful part of the country, very surprising city personally. I did not know much about that part of Kansas until I visited. And I've heard nothing but just resounding remarks, or marks, I should say, about a Kansas State football game day. So I can't wait to make it there. Have not been there for a game quite yet. But yeah, like the game last week, this could be another one that's a landmark game. We come back in late November and say, wow, that was the difference of who makes it to Arlington, who doesn't.
I thought a lot about that game. I really, really did. I could have made it work, but at a certain point, it was going to be too much Kansas State and too much Oklahoma State. And not that I wouldn't enjoy watching those teams over and over again, but I wanted to make sure there's a little more balance in my schedule. So I had to skip Manhattan with Oklahoma State, Kansas State. I'm sorry, Scott, Bosco's boys, don't hate me for that one, but I had to skip that one. And so this was actually one of the last weeks that I picked as I was going through the list of different weeks of stuff. As I ended up coming back to week 5 was my last week to figure out. And I was like, well, I could do OSU Kansas State. There's some other interesting, like Colorado UCF is a first time matchup. Maybe I should go to Orlando for that one. And I settled on 2 teams that I don't see. I wanted to see a little bit more. I do have both of them again later in the season, but it came to I'd like to see a little bit more of these teams. And so this being the last week I picked, I actually went with TCU and Kansas at Arrowhead. One thing, this is my one game at Kansas. I wanted to go to one of their road games or home games at Arrowhead, see what that experience is like. It feels like it's probably gonna be a lot of like 50-50 kind of split there. How does the venue feel for a college game? And I do think it's an interesting test case for the Big 12, who has played some games at Kansas City, but it's been a long time. Like, can you get fans to show up for this? Because I know not neutral site non-cons are kind of going the way of the dodo bird, but like there's still some opportunities here. So I'm really interested in how Arrowhead plays out for this. How do Kansas fans show up? It's an opportunity to see Kansas where Jalen Daniels should be healthy at this point. What does TCU look like? That's a dark horse team. And so this was my second shot at both of these. It's technically my first based off of chronological order, but it's just a game I was like, you know what? This seemed like it'd be a fun one to go check out both these teams here. Not sure what either team's going to look like by the end of the year. Let's go take Kansas hosting TCU and Arrowhead.
Yeah, I think that's the better of the two neutral site venues to see. I did try to work in Arrowhead there. I can shout out my editor, Killer Frogs, Barry Lewis, will be at that game. Big TCU fan, so I do believe TCU will be very well represented at Arrowhead.
Yeah, I think I get the feeling a lot of opposing fan bases are going to see it as a cool opportunity to go see a college football game, see their team play in Arrowhead, which is why, even if Kansas fans show up, like, I don't think it's going to be a Kansas home field. First off, the size of the stadium, but I think it'll kind of feel more neutral in most weeks, which is going to be really interesting in how that plays out for Kansas. So definitely something to keep an eye on and watch. Okay, week 6. We're almost to the halfway point here. We've got another interesting week. Where are you headed?
Yes, I have made this drive actually work in real life as well. I'm going a back-to-back, and they are the night back-to-back days. So assuming our Saturday game doesn't kick at noon, looking at the general matchup-ish, shouldn't, but I'm going to Houston at TCU on Friday, October 4th, Amon G. Carter Stadium. Amazing place. Houston and TCU, little kind of in-state rivalry there. It's not as heralded, but I do think that there is a little bit of bad blood there. It's about 7.5-hour drive. You go through Wichita, through Oklahoma City. So you really get to see the back heartland of America, right? And that's where I think that, this country is made, is where you see that, it's in-state matchup. TCU did win at Houston last year in their first matchup in the Big 12. And yeah, there's one nearby, but I will let you, what do you have for this week?
Okay. So for week 6, I went with Arizona hosting Texas Tech. I think I have Texas Tech 3 times in this, which is more than I expected. This is one of 2 trips to Arizona for me. I don't know what it is about this game, but it could be a very classic Big 12 game of a lot of points, a lot of offense. These are 2 teams. I was looking at Wikipedia and I forget what the number was, but they've played a lot more times than I expected to see between Texas Tech and Arizona. It was like 30-something times these teams have actually met up, which is almost like semi-conference, whatever. But this also just feels like 2 programs that like if you told me non-rivalries that would be a fun annual game, Texas Tech Arizona feels like one of those to me. It's all West Texas. We could get some tumbleweeds out here for both sides. And it's my first opportunity to go to Arizona as a Big 12 team, see them host a Big 12 team in Texas Tech. This one just kind of felt like a fun game. And what I feel like should be a decent number of points put up, like a classic Big 12 matchup.
Yeah. I think the reason they've squared off so many times is I think a long time ago, I'm sure people are screaming through their phones right now, their podcast players, but I know they shared a conference. New Mexico State was in that conference. I don't remember which conference it was. It was a very long time ago. But yeah, they were conference rivals for a short period. So that could be why they've had so many matchups.
I'm gonna while you tell me your second game, I'm gonna run in here and find the answer to that real quick, because it should be a pretty easy check.
Yeah, sure. After Houston at TCU, it's about a 4-hour drive northeast, which again, assuming that this isn't a noon kickoff, which it shouldn't be, West Virginia at Oklahoma State at Boone Pickens Stadium. I think this is a fantastic game matchup. Again, Boone Pickens is electric. You could do you get 2 hours in after, the game in Fort Worth, and then maybe 2 hours early in the morning if you need to make it there. If I'm planning this out like a real road trip, like a real week, I know where I'm going next week. I'm staying in Stillwater through Sunday, maybe Monday, because this place just rocks. The downtown is amazing, just steps away from Boone Pickett Stadium itself. This was an anchor set of games for me just because of the doability between the Friday and the Saturday. Only a 4-hour drive. Maybe some people are saying, what do you mean only? But it is doable. If you want to do these back to back and you live in this general area, I implore you to do it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think 2 games with 4 very passionate fan bases. And at least one game that I think West Virginia is going to be pretty good this year. At least one that will have a mark on the Big 12 standings.
Okay, I have answered this question. They were both in the BIAA.
There we go. I knew it was a long time ago.
Border Conference back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. This conference was in Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. I'm trying to get the full membership, but it's being a little bit okay. Border Conference from 30s on. Who are all the teams? Arizona, Arizona State, Hardin-Simmons, New Mexico State, Northern Arizona, Texas Tech, UTEP, and West Texas A&M were all members of the Border Conference. Hey, regional conference there. So yeah, you're right.
Couple of wagons in there too. Mary Hardin-Simmons and West Texas A&M. Those are D2 and D3. Well, flip the 2 there, D3 and D2 respectively, wagons right now. So prestige.
There you go. Hey, that's very good. That's great. Now I know. Now I learn something new every day, man. Every single day. All right. Okay. I loved the Oklahoma State, West Virginia pick. I agree. Like that for OSU, that 6-week stretch just opened things of South Dakota State, Arkansas, Tulsa, Utah, Kansas State, West Virginia. OSU's either going to be in the race through week 6 or they're for the Big 12 title, or they're going to be out of the race by week 6, the Big 12 title. That is just, no one was very nice to OSU as far as the scheduling goes this year. Okay, so we move on to week 7 in the schedule. Sorry, I had too many tabs open. It didn't like me, so it's going through either. Why don't you start for me here? Where are you headed for week 7?
Sure. Week 7, we're making the drive from Stillwater, Oklahoma to Boulder, Colorado. We're seeing Kansas State at Colorado. Colorado fans don't like me at all right now. I don't think this is going to be a very good game, but at least it will be a full stadium. I get to see Kansas State on the road, because another thing that I did not bring up yet is I'm trying to diversify all the road teams and see them as much as once will allow me on the road. Of course, I didn't quite stick to that, but Kansas State at Colorado. That drive from Stillwater to Boulder is going to be brutal, though. It's 9.5 hours of look at my map really quick. Kansas and Eastern Colorado. So if that's your thing, if we haven't seen enough of that yet, you're really going to enjoy it. But it's going to be get on the freeway. You have 460 miles continue straight with not a whole lot to look at. Honestly, I would just book it to Denver. I'm not making a whole lot of stops there, because the more time in Denver, the better. I've
made that drive. I've also made the drive of Dallas to Boulder. It's a drive. Guess what? I'll see you there, because I'm also going to Colorado hosting Kansas State. This is my only Colorado game, which is wild. And it is a game in Colorado. It's my first of 3 Kansas State games. It's a Big 8 rivalry. There's no name for this one. If there was a trophy, Scott will DM me when this drops and be like, Phillip, how did you not know about the such and such trophy that was made from a wagon wheel that's got something marked on it? I don't know. I Googled it and I couldn't find it. So it's an old Big 8 rivalry played again. Kansas State's going to go in. They should be the better team. We're going to know if Colorado's worth anything at this point. Are they healthy? But still, Colorado fans are going to be excited for this one. Kansas State fans are going to be excited for this one. It is a rivalry matchup. That's I put as many rivalry games that feel like they should be a rivalry, first time matchups, marquee matchups. I love that kind of stuff. And I want to see those relationships as much as I want to see the games. I want to get to Boulder for games. So this just felt like a can't miss game. So I am there with you in Boulder. Tell you what, we can just carpool. I'll head in. I'll meet you in Stillwater, and then we'll just drive together. We'll trade off, every couple hours. So
beautiful.
No one has to do the whole thing by themselves. So seems like
love it. Yes.
Okay. Man, oh man. It's just, this new conference is crazy. It's so much fun. All right. Week 8, sir. I'm really interested in what you got here. I'm excited for this one. I'm excited for mine. What do you got?
this is an anchor week because I can do back-to-backs. This is my BYU and Utah back-to-back. Fortunately, they play on consecutive days, and they're only 47 minutes apart, not accounting for traffic, maybe about an hour 15 if Salt Lake City's getting kind of gnarly there. But the first one, Oklahoma State at BYU. Fortunately, we get to enjoy a very scenic 8-hour drive from Denver to Salt Lake City. I have made that drive if you go the northern route. If you're a dinosaur geek, there's Dinosaur National Monument. I know as a kid, I was dropped off there one time. It was great. If you take the southern route, though, and you're into national parks, you got the Arches, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, all in that little triangle right there. The bad news is, though, and I did do a little bit of research for this one because I wanted to know, you won't get to see sunset from inside the stadium. You won't get that full stadium sunset stripe out type of thing because the sun sets at 6:40 local and kickoff here is at 8:15. But it should still be a pretty cool atmosphere. You're bringing in a good football team in Oklahoma State. BYU hopefully improved here at home, one of the most scenic stadiums in the country. And, of course, they play just 45 minutes from Utah the next day.
I went with, this is one of my first ever meetings. And I've had this one. I've had this one circled for a while. It's not technically an anchor game, but it was one where I said, if I can make this work, I've got to make it work. And it's UCF and Iowa State. These two are two of the most online fan bases ever, who as soon as UCF got into the conference, started going at each other. To the point that UCF was actually putting Cyclone Larry in a social media video that UCF put out because he was just talking so much. Like that we had to wait a full extra year for UCF and Iowa State to meet on the gridiron. Cyclone Larry will probably be there. I wouldn't be shocked if they brought him out on a chair carried by like a bunch of Iowa State fans to the middle of the field before the game kicked off and let him ceremoniously flip the coin. I don't know. But like, this is the most online rivalry in the conference. That's saying something because the Big 12 is the most online conference in all of college athletics. I have waited for this one. Iowa State fans get to host it first. UCF fans have waited. Like, I had to go see what would happen when these two teams face off. It should be a good game based off my expectations for UCF. And this also has like, I think Iowa State wins this one at home because I think they're going to want to, and I think there'll be a lot of talk build up to it that will light a fire that they don't need but will have. But it also has the like Iowa State messes around and blows their one home game a year kind of game, even though it's a packed house and everyone's excited because UCF does weird stuff. So I think this game's gonna be a lot of fun. This was it wasn't an anchor game, but it was like, if I can make this one, I've got to make it work. I am thrilled for UCF in Ames versus Iowa State. Had to get there.
And I guess if there's one good takeaway from conference realignment, it's happened. Like, everything's in place. There's not much we could do about it, so you may as well find some enjoyment in it. It is these new rivalries that are budding between teams that have either never met or won't meet or whatever. And I'm going to kind of follow you on that route with TCU at Utah. I do think that this could be a pretty nasty budding rivalry. There's already been friction between Utah fans that have said, oh, we're going to walk in here and run shop, and Big 12 fans push back saying, no, you're not. For the record, I kind of think at least this year Utah will come in and run a little bit of shop, but that's obviously for a different conversation. But I can see this being a pretty decent budding rivalry here, TCU at Utah.
Well, and I mean, they played each other in the Mountain West, so there's already some bad blood that exists there. Now, it's been a while. It wasn't a full-blown, but like TCU BYU and TCU Utah, like there's opportunity there to really build something. This is my whole thing of the Big 12, like not only protecting like 5 rivalry games of, I want the 3+6 scheduling model. I want 3 games a year where you have games you said, and I know that would require teams to get over who they get and don't get, but like, it bothers me that OSU and Texas Tech don't play annually. It bothers me that like we don't get Cincinnati UCF, which was kind of building into something in the AAC. Yes. Like there's so many opportunities for cool matchups that we could have. Like Texas Tech should probably play Arizona or Arizona State every single year, and of course still get. I would lean the butt bowl over TCU, Texas Tech, but whatever. I need that 3 annual games a year. I think, especially if this conference continues to grow, like we got to have some established stuff if we're at 2024, whatever number of teams. But again, that's conversations we've had. We'll have again later. I do really like that one. TCU Utah should be a fun game. What's also really fun is all the new stuff that's dropping at charliehustle.com. Sponsored here on the 1012 podcast and for the entire 1012 network. I just got my order in with my new Arizona shirt, so my Big 12 t-shirt drawer collection is continuing to grow. I'm going to get one more new Big 12. I'm going to get one more Big 12 school. And if I can find me a good... the Citronaut shirt, the two options at Charlie Hustle has been out in my size, and if they restock it, I'll get one because I would love a good Citronaut t-shirt. But I also got the new t-shirt they put out that has all 16 Big 12 mascots on it, and it is absolutely fabulous. I love it. I cannot wait to wear it and show it off all the time. You can go get yours. You can check out everything they have at charliehustle.com, a company that loves the Big 12. Does all this great Big 12 stuff, has all 16 Big 12 schools, and is going to keep dropping new gear throughout August as we get into the season. They've dropped a bunch of great Big 8 stuff, a lot of cool vintage stuff, a lot of really unique stuff. So go to charliehustle.com. Use the promo code 101215, TEN1215. Get 15% off all non-sale items. Notice I didn't say the first time you go shop there. So use it, and then use it again, and then use it again. Christmas will be here before you know it. You can buy some stuff for family and friends, but they've got so much good stuff. They've got sales all the time. T-shirt Tuesdays every single week. Just go to charliehustle.com. If you're a fan of our show, if you're a fan of the Big 12, check out all the incredible stuff that they have to offer. I know I just keep adding more to my inventory, and I'm thrilled about it. Charlie Hustle, 10, 12, 15, 15% off. charliehustle.com, vintage made fresh. All right, we don't have a lot left here. We're a little over halfway. So we got a few weeks left. Okay, we are moving on to week 9, Brett. Week 9. I'm excited about this one. I am. But I'm curious from you. What are you up to first?
We're getting in the car and we're driving. And we're driving quite a bit. Fortunately, I mapped out kind of like 5 days for this, about 4.5 hours every day, though. We're going from Utah all the way down to Houston. And that is the only time in which I'm really going a quote unquote, cross-country trip to make all this happen. But like I said, I try to go region by region, east to west, best I can. I do have to double back 23 hours. It's a daunting drive, but hey, it's all good. We're actually following Utah. Their plane will probably get there earlier than I do. But I did have to relocate at some point this year to make all these work. Again, I don't know how great of a game this is going to be. I've been to Houston. They have Willie Fritz in town. It's going to be a long-term build, though. Look, they're not going to be 10 wins this year. But it is a cool stadium. It's a cool little campus, a little nook of campus over there. And let's just say that the fans are very, very passionate about their team. So you're getting the Utah fans that are coming in, talking their smack about, hey, we're going to run it. And Houston's not going to sit back and take that. Houston fans will not sit in that stadium and let Utah run their mouths because they talk enough smack themselves. And it creates kind of a fun, explosive environment. Again, don't know how close it's going to be, but to be sitting in these stands, to be on either side of these two fan bases, I think it's going to be a lot more explosive than maybe TV will let on, or maybe that you'll pick up from if you're not at the game. So I'm actually a little bit more excited for this than I probably should be. But Utah at Houston is my week 9 pick.
That one was not on my radar. I thought long and hard about BYU UCF just because it's such a weird game. Like BYU UCF is a conference game. That's like, tell yourself that 5 years ago and, whatever. Also, the one I really almost went with was West Virginia, Arizona. Again, tell yourself 5 years ago that West Virginia and Arizona are playing in the same conference. It's weird. They've never met before in football, and it is the Rich Rod Bowl, and the winner of this game gets to take a piñata of Rich Rod's head and beat the tar out of it and take whatever goodies are inside of this Rich Rod head piñata that you will get. But this is not what I went with, because we have a rivalry game this week that has really started to turn into a must-watch game, despite the record, one team dominating it. But it's no longer a game where you just know what's going to happen, even though Kansas State's won this. But it is the Sunflower Showdown. It is Kansas State, Kansas. I just like, this game has become such a big one. I might change my opinion on this one if Jalen Daniels isn't healthy, because there's no, we're not getting a Jason Bean to come in here and make things look great. But it's the Sunflower Showdown. If you got Jalen Daniels and you've got an Avery Johnson that people think he's going to be, we could have one of the best Sunflower Showdowns we've ever seen. And I love rivalry games, and I love fun things like that. And had it not been this week, I would have been at Arizona, West Virginia, because it's just a wild. I I'm sorry, Rich Rod Pinata is one of my favorite jokes I've ever done. But I have to go to this game. And I just hope Jalen Daniels healthy because it's just going to put so much more into this game and to a rivalry. It's really become one of the better ones in the Big 12. Like when you start ranking rivalry games, I think I get Holy War number 1, fine. I think Farmageddon is like 1B to 1A, whatever, because it's just so underrated. This one has moved up the totem pole so much because Kansas has become a good football program that I gotta make it to this one. And in Manhattan, like, come on. Yes, I need it on one of their actual venues, not like an Arrowhead.
Yeah, it's one that I penciled in at the start. It's one I really, really, really wanted to go to. It's also one that I'm going to have to punt to 2025 to fly to or something like that, just because I had to make it to every stadium. That was my goal on this one. That's going to be must-watch TV for non-person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, we are on to week 10. Okay, yeah. I was like, which one did I put here? Okay, week 10. I'm curious. Where are you going?
Well, I'm going to stay in state. I'm not going all that far, and I am going to a rivalry game, and this was an anchor game for me. TCU at Baylor at McLean Stadium. McLean Stadium is a gorgeous part of campus. TCU fans will hate to hear me boast a little bit about Baylor's campus, but it is beautiful, especially their little athletic side there at the Brazos River and all that. I'm not calling this Blue Bonnet Bowl or Showdown or whatever they tried to name it. It's just TCU Baylor. That's okay. That's good enough for me. It's only a 3-hour drive. And on the way, if you're a high school football fanatic, I coach high school football. So I love high school football. I'm pulling over in Katy. I'm pulling over in Cypress. I'm getting out. I'm seeing about $500 million worth of football stadium on the route. So I'm definitely checking those out, even maybe a game if I'm in the area. And then Waco also has some pretty cool spots. I do think Magnolia is worth it. I know it's kind of a tourist trap a little bit, but I brought my folks there when I lived in San Marcos and all those things. They have cool bars, restaurants, spent a lot of time in Waco when I lived north of Austin, pardon me. And if you're a fan of Texas country music, I happen to be, it's kind of a great place to be. So I'm going from Houston to Baylor, seeing TCU at Baylor. Big time anchor game. You can also pop down to Texas State and San Marcos if you want to see a non-Big 12 game, or stay in the Houston area for Sam Houston State. Both those teams play home games the Tuesday night after week 9.
I'll see you there. We're both going to the game that will always be called the Revivalry. You can
Revivalry. Thank you.
I'm not calling it the Blue Bonnet Battle, there used to be a Blue Bonnet Bowl, and so I always want to say Blue Bonnet Bowl because, like, there was a bowl game called the Blue Bonnet Bowl. I'm not going to call it the Blue Bonnet. I don't. Many a joke made about the paper mache trophy that was done by whatever. No, this is the Revivalry. It is a rivalry game. I love rivalry games. I'm absolutely going to be there for this one. It wasn't an anchor game, but once I got to this point, and when I got to this point in my list, I hadn't had TCU or Baylor on my schedule yet, and I needed to see both. This was my one Baylor game for the season, and so, of course, it was a perfect opportunity for a rivalry game to see Baylor in what... Look, Gary Patterson was at Baylor. I know he's stepped away, but, like, you had Gary Patterson there, which is super weird that Gary Patterson's making his Texas school tour. I expect that Texas Tech and Texas A&M will not be too far off from him becoming an assistant or something there. I'm curious if he does the whole state, if we're going to get down to like D2 FCS or just P5, P4. So absolutely. And at this point, Dave Aranda may not be the head coach. Gary Patterson might just be the interim head coach at Baylor.
Oh goodness. Oh, don't even speak that into existence. That hurts my soul.
Oh man. Okay. We'll leave it at that. I don't know how many people I've upset with that one. Okay. So moving on, we go to week 11. I know where you're not going this week because you've already mentioned it a couple times, but where are you going for week 11?
Yeah, I'm making a 5.5-hour drive west to Texas Tech. It's Colorado at Texas Tech, Jones AT&T Stadium. I'm hoping they play this one under the lights. I'm hoping it's the pitch black nature of Lubbock, Texas. Look, it's a self-contained city, so I'm heading straight there because I do think Lubbock is great. Getting the famous cheese logs from Spanky's. Don't you dare call them cheese sticks. They will not serve them to you. My question for the on-field product is, number one, what's the over-under? And number two, is there a limit to how many points these teams can combine for? Because in my opinion, this is a 45-30 game minimum. Like, we're probably going to be seeing 70, 80, maybe more points between these two teams that are just going to gun it out. Of course, that's assuming that Colorado is still healthy and not having to dig into depth that they don't have to go out to Texas Tech. But I really do think that this is going to be a really fun game out there in the desert.
This is an interesting week. Like, you get Oklahoma State at TCU, where they have struggled in Fort Worth over Gundy's tenure. UCF at Arizona State. Again, tell yourself 5 years ago that's a conference game. West Virginia, Cincinnati, that's air quotes, not a rivalry per West Virginia fans, which doesn't make any sense. But this was my third anchor game. This was one of my 4 anchor games, and it is the Holy War. It is BYU at Utah. Like, I had to, it's the first time this is a conference game in the Big 12. So of course I had to get to this. This is the first time it's been a conference game since 2010. That's wild. It's wild to me. Utah leads this one 59-32-4. BYU got the win the last time in 2021. Like, I have no expectations that BYU is going to win this game in Utah. But, like, I also wanted to go to Utah for a game. I wanted to get to this stadium. I wanted to check it out. So I just, like, this was anchor game. This was, I have to go here. It was one of the first 4 games. I was like, yep, just put that down. What is it? Week 11? Done. I don't care what else is going on this week. And, like, there's no other game where I was seriously like, I don't know, maybe I should have gone to, like, no. Like, this is the, based off of preseason expectations, this is the game of the weekend in the Big 12. And I mean, look, I would say Kansas could be a really good game depending upon where both those teams are. But, like, this was the game this week. Just had to be.
Yep, I'm with you. I was there my first draft. Let's put it that way, until I wanted to make it to all 16. Realized I had to scratch it. Yeah, it'd be pulled out of my dying hands, but it was.
All right, week 12. It's not the sexiest week of the season in the Big 12. So where are you going?
Can I fly? Here's the thing. I stranded myself. In Lubbock, Texas with, if you're following along, 2 schools left in one state that is almost next door to Lubbock with one state in between. So if I was in real life and I'm in Lubbock, Texas, I'm taking a bye week. And I hate to say that because I couldn't. Arizona plays on Friday night and Arizona State's away. So it would have been Arizona State back-to-back, but I just could not do it because Arizona State's not there. So I took a bye week. I'm going to sit down and watch the games. I'm going to do it in Albuquerque specifically. If I could plug for 1 minute, I will be in Albuquerque for week 0. That's why I'm wearing the Montana State shirt today for, those that can't see us here. But it is a quieter week. Like you said, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch it. Going to head to an Albuquerque brewery or 2 and enjoy a little bit of time off on the road. Because, again, I have 2 schools left. They're both in Arizona, and I'm coming from Lubbock. So, unfortunately, I can't talk myself into backtracking a 40-plus hour out of the way drive.
Fair enough. It's not this. There is not, again, preface everything by, based off of our expectations sitting here on recording this on August 8th, there is not a matchup of quote-unquote contenders this week. There's not a matchup where you go, okay, that could, like, don't get me wrong, there will be an upset. There always are. There's always one of those weird weeks where it's like, this should be a week where the contenders all win, and then you get 2 weird upsets like Baylor going on the road and beating West Virginia, or Colorado pulling off the upset at home over Utah, or things of that nature. I had to get a Houston game in somewhere. This is where it fell. So I am doing the Friday game. So I'm going to spend Saturday just enjoying the rest of the conference slate. Friday night, I am going to Arizona for Houston, Arizona. This is my second game for Arizona. It's my second game at Arizona. But I had to fit Houston in somewhere because I had to see every team. This is where it happened because it just kind of came down to, like, I can see other matchups I would rather see in this week or this week or this week. This is the least sexy conference weekend. This is the opportunity. I'll go to a Friday and I will spend Saturday just enjoying myself, sitting at a brewery hopping and watching football wherever. I'll just stay in Arizona. I got friends there. That'll be great. Not a bad place to spend a weekend. So this is where I saw Houston. I'm not the most excited about this game because I don't think it will be a close game. But I had to see Houston somewhere. This was the time to do it.
Yeah. Utah, Colorado. If I had to double up, I didn't want to double up on any stadiums, but Utah, Colorado is feasible.
Yeah. It's one of those games where like it's either Utah's either going to go on the road and blow Colorado out, or it's going to be a close game.
Yeah,
like real close game. I just that's the vibe. And this is one of those weekends where no one should get upset, but somebody's going to. Because you don't.
Well, that's the thing. It's a quiet weekend, and not just in the Big 12. It's national. When you say there's a quiet weekend, that's when all the dominoes fall.
That's when chaos ensues.
Yep.
So congratulations if you're off this week. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU. Like you could just sit back and watch all the other contenders take on losses that they were not planning to take on. Okay. We are on to week 13. Wow, we just 2 weeks left in the regular season. Week 13. I'm excited for my last 2 weeks. I'm very excited for my last 2 weeks. All right. Where are you headed for this week?
I probably showed my hand a little bit.
It's okay.
But week 13, I'm heading to Phoenix, doing BYU at Arizona State and Mountain America Stadium. I did just get to visit Tempe last year and see Arizona State. I saw Bo Nix play football, and Arizona State take the field and kind of stand there, giving up 6 passing touchdowns in the first half for those that remember the game. But I had to see Arizona State. I had to see a Pac-12 game. It was my only Pac-12 game I ever have been to and ever will be to, because it is now DOA. So, there's so much great things to do in Phoenix. So I'm taking that half bye week and relocating to Phoenix. Going to see Prescott, Flagstaff, the Grand Canyon, all that good stuff. BYU, Arizona State. It probably will be a little bit of a slap fight, but at least it should be a close slap fight between these two. I project to be bottom feeders of the conference. At me on Twitter if you so may.
That's good. This was one of those weeks where it's like, well, I could go see here. It's like, nope, you know what? I'm going to make a homer pick because I'm going to the Dust Bowl, a.k.a. the Red Dirt Rivalry, a.k.a. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. That should be an annual game. This should be Big 12. This should be an annual game. Texas Tech chose not to play an in-state team annually each year. This should be an annual game. OSU should have a game against a team from Texas every year. And it should be Texas Tech. It just should be. There is a mutual dislike and respect on both sides. This should be a rivalry game. Every Oklahoma State and Texas Tech fan I know is like, yes, this should be a Big 12 rivalry. This game's in Stillwater. I'm excited for this game. I am actually physically going to this game this season. This is the Saturday before Thanksgiving. We always now, based off my new work schedule stuff, like I take the week off of Thanksgiving and go visit my family in Oklahoma. So we're actually going to come in on Friday instead of Saturday so that I can head to Stillwater on Saturday and go watch this game live. I'm excited for it. This one, I just like, this is to me the new OSU in conference rivalry. I wanted to go to this game because I could, and I had an opportunity to go to a second game in Stillwater because I hadn't already gone to 2. Like I said, I get 3 opportunities to see Texas Tech. I'm curious what Texas Tech looks like. Is Barron Morton healthy? We'll see. But this is a non-rivalry game. There wasn't another game where I was just like, oh yeah, I got to go to that one. Like Colorado, Kansas is interesting. Arizona, TCU, Iowa State, Utah. Like again, every time I mention UCF, they're going to West Virginia. Like there's lots of fun, interesting games. But I just at this point I was like, I'm making a homer pick for me. I'm going to Stillwater, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech.
Great game, great pick, great venue.
Absolutely. All right, it's the last week of the regular season. It's our last time to pick a game here, Brett. Our time is coming to a close, and I'm sad. This is the point of the season where you're just like, where's college football gone? Why is the season over? And it comes so much faster, just like this episode, than you think that it will. So, where are we going? Where are you headed?
Anchor game, non-negotiable. This was the first one I wrote down. Territorial Cup, Arizona State at Arizona. When I was deciding whether I wanted to go west to east or east to west, it was pretty simple. Do I want to visit Southern Arizona in August or late November? Late November is a little bit more tolerable. Get to see one of the biggest rivalries in the conference here. Well, one of the biggest rivalries in the Pac-12 migrating to the Big 12. And of course, had to get the marquee rivalry. I originally had the Holy War, pivoted away. So this was an absolute non-negotiable. Tucson, amazing. I'm leaving Phoenix and going to Tucson for a good 3 or 4 days ahead of this one and ending the season with one of my favorite rivalries.
I like that pick. That's fun. That's a rivalry game. I thought long and hard about Utah UCF because based off my expectations for both teams, that game should be so fun. last game of the regular season, Utah's got to go all the way to Orlando on a short week. UCF's going to be, the bounce house is going to be hopping. Again, Utah and UCF are in a conference together. Let's let that roll. It's just a wild thought. Like, I really, really, really wanted to do that one, but I had to go with my fourth anchor game, the one where I had it circled, and I did think hard about dropping it, but I went with Farmageddon because it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, I get BYU, I get the Holy War. I'm not like, every time I say anything about Farmageddon, Utah BYU fans are like, but it's the Holy War. I get it. This is the now, until they don't play one of these years, because thanks, Pollard. This is now the longest running Big 12 rivalry matchup in Farmageddon. Iowa State, Kansas State. They don't like each other at all. This needs to be an official rivalry. It needs to have a trophy. Everyone but Jamie Pollard believes that and agrees with that. Its game is in Ames after last year's Snowmageddon game that was just absolutely wild. What happens here? I mean, it is Farmageddon. And I want to go to a Farmageddon game so bad as a neutral party to just sit back and just enjoy. And like, I will wear a black, well, I can't wear black because that's Iowa State's color, right? I'll wear a green shirt so I'm a neutral party, whatever. Or just a Big 12 shirt, that's great. But I had to do Farmageddon. I had to. And like there's like West Virginia, Texas Tech, it just screams fun. Houston BYU is a game where you actually that could be a competitive game between two teams with low expectations. As I mentioned, Utah, UCF, Oklahoma State, Colorado meeting up again. Like, that could be an interesting one in a Boulder. Maybe OSU is competing for, like, it feels like a trap game on Friday. But I had to do Farmageddon. It felt like the perfect way to end a season of Big 12 football by heading to Ames, Iowa, to watch the Battle of Corn versus Wheat.
And as a college football fan, it's sacrilege to say I wish that this rivalry was on another week. But when you get into the actual traveling and trying to see all of the rivalry games in person, I do wish that either Territorial Cup or Farmageddon, I know they never will be and shouldn't be, but kind of wish it was on another week because I would love to go and see that because Farmageddon is one of my favorites nationally. And of course, after last year's, I would say, surprising result,
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a bit of animosity this year for Kansas State to want to now walk into Ames and rush for 273 plus yards on the ground themselves after getting rushed on by Abu Sama.
I feel like all in-state rivalry games should be played in week 14.
I'm with you.
And then all non, that way you can have another rivalry week for your non-in-state reps. So like Sunflower Showdown, Territorial Cup, Holy War, all in-state rivalry games. If Bedlam ever comes back to the gridiron, you can do it as a non-conference. You get Florida State here, you get South Carolina, Clemson here, you get
Cyhawk.
I would be great with Cyhawk moving to this week. I think all in-state rivalry games should be that like Thanksgiving weekend because your fans are going to probably be home. It's easy to get to that place. That is when I think they should be played. And your non-in-state rivalries, you have a rivalry week like week 11 or 10 where you go, this is the week we're going to play Farmageddon, and any other out-of-state rivalry like Baylor TCU should be this week. I just like in-state rivalry games. The in-state rivalry games, I am of the opinion, week 14, it makes so much sense. You could go back home, you go back to your alum, you go back to Thanksgiving. That's when I think they should all happen because I think it would just turn that weekend into just the most. And I get you want to have some like, oh, it's marquee. No, it would make that weekend just even bigger than just the last week of the regular season. You would have something, even if you don't have something to play for from a standpoint of like a postseason or a playoff, or you would have something to play for because that in-state team you hate the most, you're playing that last weekend of the regular season. It would just be an epic Saturday and Friday.
I'm with you. And just really quick to speak on the neutral fan thing, because I feel like not enough people go to games as neutral fans, especially those rivalries. If the fan bases that are there know that you are there to watch their spectacle, that their spectacle is so endearing and drawing enough for you to show up as a neutral fan, they love it. And, having been to 43 neutral site game, not neutral site, but as a neutral fan game, it's incredible. And you're treated with the utmost hospitality. People love it. And, it kind of breaks down those rivalry barriers where like, wow, you came out to Manhattan, Kansas to watch this because you wanted to see Kansas State football on the field, play one of their biggest rivals. I'm not going to speak for them and say it's their biggest, but one of their biggest rivals. They love that. Both fans do. So if you have the opportunity to go to neutral or games as a neutral college football fan, do it. absolutely do it.
I love it. That's awesome. That is some absolutely great advice. Brett, thank you so much, man. You have been an awesome guest. This has been a ton of fun. Love doing this I love doing this every year, but I've really enjoyed doing it with you. Do me a favor. Where can everybody follow the work you do covering college football?
Yes, Phil, thank you so much for having me on here. It's been a blast talking my absolute favorite thing in the world, college football travel. If you are looking to find me, the best way to do is on Twitter, X, artist formerly known as Twitter, whatever, at Road to CFB, ROADTOCFB. You can also, if you're into sports betting, that's kind of my primary niche here, at thelines.com. Of course, I write there. And if you follow me on Instagram, you can keep up with my travels this year. I will also be posting Twitter. That's also at Road to CFB and roadtocfb.com.
Brett, I appreciate it, man. We do picks every Thursday in Big 12, so we're going to get you back on once the season kicks off to join us as a guest picker this season. I think it'll be a ton of fun. Plus,
awesome.
I can't wait to hear about your experiences on the road, visiting all these great different venues in college football. I love that you have the opportunity to do that. I am very jealous of you. I have 3 small children, so that is not an option for me anymore. Maybe when I'm old, I'll convince my wife. She wants to get an RV when we retire and drive around. I'm like, great.
There you go. Yeah.
Get ready for visiting a lot of college football stadiums.
Yes.
You go shop. I'll go watch football. It's fine. She doesn't love shopping that much. But all right, Brett, again, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. We're going to get you back on again soon.
Thank you so much, guys.
Sports Social Podcast Network.